Welcome to the stage, Jane Afia.
Thank you. So whenever you have a group of people coming into a room, whether it's children or people, I mean older people, adults, if you want to get their attention, you need to have prepared the room. And that's what I did. And then things happen. So Devin came in and he looked at the board which says practice this acrostic we're going to do with problem as the top in red, going over to parents underlined in red, arrow. But the arrows weren't here. And I'd underlined teachers and I hadn't put in the arrows and solutions at the end. So that was immediately, he was engaged in what was happening in the room. And then somebody else came in and they said, oh, I like the tin. And then I realised I hadn't turned over my fish tin, which is actually another interesting thing. You walk into a room and there's something on the floor. You look at it and you go, oh, that's very interesting. What's going on there? So I wanted to just start in a way, this is non-Suzuki in a way, to talk about problem. Loads of philosophy is all about, oh, nurtured by love, and you do this and you do that and you do that. But I think that there are significant problems to do with practice, and having a subject that says making practice easier at some point has maybe a little sub-message that there are problems attached to it. I also think, when I think about parents who come into Suzuki, I would suspect that if you took a poll of Suzuki teachers, however experienced they would probably all go, mea culpa, I do not look after the parent enough. Because these delightful children come in and we're paid, it's so easy to think, we're paid to teach the children and to not actually think about the parent or even do these things. So various trainers, teachers do different things. When a new person comes along with their little one, you do need, I mean, even before we get to practice, you do need to set quite a few things up if you're going to be successful right from the first lesson. So the things that I think are really worth considering, I've introduced quite recently in my teaching that I have a consultation lesson time, consultation fee and time with the parent, just the parent, not the parent and the child, the parent. And I just sort of zone in on what they actually know. Now, I belong to an established practice. This is now an established Suzuki Hub. So I would imagine that people inquiring about the Hub do periods of observation.
They do the parent education course, which is 3 hours on Zoom held by me with other parents who haven't started yet. Then they have 5 lessons on their own. The child is allowed to come, but on their own instrument with the teacher. And then the child can start, and the child observes groups during that time.
Yeah. So, you know, if you're going to go out in the big wide world and be a successful teacher, you need something like that, and it may have different time zones attached to it, because you will know then, if you've done those things, you will know if that child is ready to start. If they can't just draw quietly while mummy's having a lesson and there's constant hassle, then you focus on that. And one of the great things about Suzuki is you don't have to be in a hurry. If you've got little ones who are 3, you're not in a hurry. So this sort of talking about problems, it's like, in a way it feels to me like it's the same as when I'm teaching. I go, what have we already learnt? Have they actually learnt what we've already learnt? You've just seen me teach like this. Do they know where this comes from? Is this child still able to play these review pieces where this introduction of accents happened, and now we get to Casal's tonalization, and they're no longer accents because they're sort of Scooby-Doos, they're completely different. And building like that as a teacher is sort of fundamental to being a successful teacher, I think. So I'm thinking about, Ella wasn't here to ask, but I'm sure she won't mind what I'm going to say. Ella and Kate, because they're very close to me. One of the things that Ella found confusing, I thought in a minute, we'll use this acrostic down here.
How do you spell acrostic, please?
I've called it the wrong thing for years.
That's why I don't know how to spell it. No, not because of you, because
Xrostic.
I see, cool.
I just find my brain works really well like this. It sort of goes across. So for my C, I want to put confused, because I believe that there are a huge amount of parents who don't get what they're meant to be doing. They don't understand it. They don't like to confess they don't know, and all those things. And that feeds into it being a problem. If they can't say to you, well, I know you gave me those fish to work with my children, but she just screwed them all up and put them in the bin. For as an example, you know, I'll flush some down the toilet. Now, it's a pretty strong parent that can actually say that that has happened, or that can say, I can't even get my child to practice. They won't come. And so, in a way, if you're in for the long, I don't want to call it a haul because it's not a long haul, but if you're in for long-term teaching, and you're prepared to stick with this family for whatever reason, you know, maybe it's a family that's disadvantaged and you definitely want the child to have this, and you're going to work with them with certain parameters that you've set up, you know, that they either pay you or barter with food or something, and that child comes to group lessons and you keep showing them this other environment that they would never have had, where people are nice to one another and say nice things. But underlying it all, the wish of the parent who's putting so much effort into this is that their child will be able to play the violin in the end. They want the music, they want the creativity. Ed Kreitman says that whenever he does his talk on what do you want for your children, people do not say, I want them to get a music scholarship. However much you hear that at a certain point, that's not their end thing. Their end thing is that they enjoy playing, they like the music, and that sort of thing. And so I think that's another thing that gets in the way at the beginning, because parents, you'll have all had them if you've taught. They'll be doing the pre-twinkle stuff really nicely, and then comes this magic moment. They've done enough sort of pre-twinkly soaping or whatever they're doing, that they can then put the bow on the string and play everybody down it. And after that, that parent doesn't think there's any use in doing sort of around your face, all this stuff that we do in pre-twinkle. They think, oh, they're playing. The fact that they can't actually hold the violin up without their head or without their hand, or that they can't do a good bow hold. So those things disappear because the parent doesn't understand. So in a way, if we just think about the parents, you have to, if you want them to be sort of okay with you, you have to be unshockable with anything they say, and you have to get a sort of place with them where actually they can tell you things. So it was very interesting that Richard said to me the other day, he said, I've just suggested the Suzuki song, Dr. Suzuki says never be lazy. We all know this, we don't we? To a
Richard
parent.
is my brother. Mum's
Richard
son,
is
just in
my
case.
son. Yes.
Don't know.
Chose to be a Suzuki teacher, like his mum. Therefore, must have done something right. Anyway, apart from that, he was teaching this family one night, and the father said, I'm not going to teach him that song. I don't want him to feel that he's lazy if he doesn't play the violin every day. I don't even want him to feel that he has to practice every day, because that's not how we see it. And you go, oh, so then I was in the middle of the night going. So I made another one, may as well put it on the video. Dr. Suzuki loves teaching his students. He wrote lots of songs that they all learn to play well. He teaches on Mondays, on Tuesdays, on Wednesdays. He teaches on Thursdays, on Fridays, at weekends. 'Cause Dr. Suzuki loves teaching his students and wrote lots of songs that they all learn to play well, which is a sort of alternative. And it's one of those lovely things that means that when you're at an age when you could retire, you don't retire because you've still got the creativity that you could think up, oh yeah, that's a valid point. How do I teach this person who's got a completely different valid point? And it goes through teaching. You'll find it all the time. You know, I don't want my child to have anything to do with hula hoops and eating. I don't want eating to come with the violin, you know, so then you have to have rings for bows or something, you know, something different. Anyway, so getting that relationship with the parent is really important. That if you're going to get to the solutions, then you as a teacher have to work out how you're going to deal with this parent. And one of the things that's happened to me quite recently, I've never done with any other student I have ever taught. I'm teaching somebody who, I shan't say the name, but the family is multilingual. So there's the mother is Italian, the father is Hindi, the child goes to an English school, the child has just turned 4. Therefore, my take on this is the child is perfectly capable of understanding anything said in any of those languages. I know enough. But for the mum, this is like her beloved child who is only just out of nappies, kind of being breastfed. And so she translated every single thing I said in the lesson into Italian for this child who goes to an English school. They don't speak Italian at the school, she does very well at the school, you know? So I decided I was going to talk to her about it. So we went out to a wine bar to have a chat.
Like all the best meetings.
Like all the best meetings, you know, and she lives very near, so it's very nice. But then I said, okay, I'm going to try. We can't have these lessons with you doing this. I know you're doing this, so I'm going to give you 10 matchsticks. So every time she comes into the lesson, there's a little pile of 10 matchsticks, and this is hers. Here are her 10, and every time she interrupts to translate, she loses one. And I've got this big star for her when she gets to keeping all 10 for the whole time. She has not yet done this. But she kind of goes, oh! You know, so she's beginning to realise she's doing it. She may not understand why I think it's so important. But of course it is, because the moment she comes into it, the child is listening to her, not to me. And furthermore, she wants the child to behave like somebody who's sort of like, I don't know, 10. I say something, she does it. Like, do it. She just said it, do it. So that's my particular problem that I'm trying to find a solution for. And I think it's fine. She hasn't left me. She's still coming. We still smile. And I think you can only do that sort of thing if you've developed a relationship there's got a bit of substance to it. But I do think that this idea that parents will sit there, it's like if you think they're taking good notes, one of the things you could do is just start as a matter of routine taking photographs of their notes. You could say, I haven't got time to write everything down, do you mind if I just take a photo of your notes? You know, you don't have to say you're checking it, but check it, and then you find out other things, like you've been busy talking about boats bobbing up and down for casals, as we were doing, you know, like, and what's the person written down? Oh, just make the bow wood go towards the head. They've lost all the imagery. They don't write down the words you used, which possibly excite the child. You know, they just stay where they are. So I think that's a good introduction. So I thought we'd stop you listening to me now, and I'd like you to write down whatever you like to do with practice, which goes down here. Oh, I didn't actually finish telling you about Ella. Confused. She said, you know, it's very confusing that you've got these different names. Some teachers are teaching busy, busy, stop, stop. Some teachers are teaching everybody down up. Some people say in America they do Mississippi hot dog. So to her, coming into it, it's not that anything is right as long as the rhythm is ya blah 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 blah. It's just like, could you give me like a formulaic thing so I'm doing, and can't everybody do the same thing? Well, I've worked like Kate does here with different teachers. One of the things that attracts us is creativity. So you do find this doing different things, and it reminds me that when I first had Kate as a baby, I went home and I did exactly the hospital routine, because when I had her, this has to go on record, when after birth you stay a week in hospital regardless of whether you've had a so-called natural birth. And on the night before we left, they looked after the baby while you could go out for supper with your partner.
Oh my goodness.
Baby boomers, you got every single.
You know, that's
benefit
really
going.
good, eh? So
Is that
I went
in
back. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was in London.
1979.
You know, so when you do that, you've had a whole week of training of what might be a good way to tackle the fact you've got this baby, and then you go home and then you talk to all these other people, and they've got all these other ideas of how to do it, and you go, I don't know what I'm doing anymore, you know, and so I can understand this confusion walking into this rarefied thing called Suzuki tuition, that you see everybody being very happy and they're being nice, so you can't say I haven't a clue. And then we had a parents meeting at Lauderdale, a sort of social parents meeting, and one of these parents confessed that she just was at the end of her tether. She didn't know what to do with this child who'd been learning for about 5 years. She said, we just fight all the time, and I just can't stand it. And she was almost in tears. And this was in front of a group of about 16. So that was really interesting to me, that she was saying this for the first time in what you would have thought was not a safe environment, but she's been so much that she must have thought she could say whatever she liked. And then I talked to somebody else who'd come in for the first time and said, I didn't like that thing of going round and people saying things because it made me go straight back to school, and I hated it, and I don't think it should be like that. I think you should just have coffee on the go and you can talk to who you like, you know. So you can never please everybody all the time, but it's just interesting.
Just before we move on, can I just offer two things?
Sure.
Thoughts about that. One of the things I learned from Music Mind Games, which I find really helpful, is play or pass, which is anything that goes around the room. You say before you start, we're going to play or pass. And therefore, if someone wants to say something, they say, I'm going to play, this is my experience, and someone can just say pass, and then it's completely fine, because it's like
great.
the game.
That's really nice, yes.
And also, the way that we've now started to try and tackle the problem of the words, I used to print out, this is what we call all the variations at Suzuki Hub, and put them on the walls and stuff, and people still didn't. So I thought we would take a different approach, and in the pre-Twinkle groups, I was trying to encourage the teachers to explain how the parents can work out, and the children can work out which variation it is, regardless of what words they're using. Like, okay, can you everybody say what they call variation A? Ready, go. Busy, busy, stop. And then, okay, now do it with your lips closed. Ready, go. And that's how you can test. Really
That's
easy
nice.
test. What you can test. Like, so now let's make up a different set of words for that rhythm. You know, we won't do it now, but in group you can do that. And then, did it work? If you keep your mouth shut and it sounds the same, does it work? Yes or no? Actually, you've not got the right number of syllables or whatever. And I think that is better, really, because it's tackling the understanding rather than just dictating what you're going to call it to simplify, you know, my life, basically. So yeah, those two are helpful.
They're very helpful.
Would
Okay,
you
so
want-
we're just going into little, I don't know if you want to pause the video while everybody just sort of has a little think what
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
write down. And then we'll... So we've now come back after everybody has used the word practice with the verb in UK, practice with an S as opposed to with a C for the noun. Whereas in the USA, I was listening, see, in the USA it's always C, so just so you know why there's a C and an S. Also, I needed a different letter. But anyway, there you go. Everybody has used this as an acrostic to put lots of words down. So there'll be a photo of the board, which is very scruffy, with people's ideas, and we're going to talk about some of these things.
I'll just go closer, because you
what
can't post a photo easily.
Oh, can you not? Okay.
So there you go. Now you can pause your screen if you would like to read all of those. Otherwise,
Right. Thank you.
you're welcome.
So what this shows is that any group of teachers, any group of people have always got different ideas, different ways, different things. So you know, some of these words that came out that were nothing like any of mine, like community. I mean, I might have got there, but what was the other one?
Soup.
Soup. Oh, soup. Yes, soup. But it's worth doing because it just bounces off ideas really. So if we think about a parent, and I now circle and say the words that we think are really important for a parent. Well, what do we have here then?
Praise.
Praise. Anything else in P that you think is really important?
Oh, we can have more than one.
Yes, yes.
Preparation or plan. It's kind of the same, isn't it?
Yeah. So these. Let's start with what makes parents succeed. If parents do these three things, they're going to be successful parents, aren't they? If they praise the child, if they plan, i.e. they open the notebook that the teacher asks them to work with, and they know when they're going to play the CD, and they have to have preparation for when it's going to be done. Now this is another interesting pitfall for me, because where did somebody say routine?
Third in the R's.
Right. Now this is an interesting one, because I fall into the group that really likes routine, but I know there are certain parents that really don't like routine. So saying to them, oh, your child's going to be the best first thing in the morning is not necessarily true, because if they don't put their child to bed and they spend half an hour trying to wake the child up, you're not going to have a child who's happy to do their practice, are they? So you have to negotiate. We haven't got an N. We'll put some words that we'd like to have. I think in order to get a successful outcome, you have to discuss and negotiate with your maybe the whole family, maybe parents, and maybe your partner as well. Anyway, so these things are really good: praise, planning, and preparation. I think you'll get good practicing if you also do some random things in it. So you suddenly, the child thinks they're picking up a fish. You know, we've got the fish set on the floor here if they're little, or even if they're choice. They love choice, don't they? So if you have something which means they're going to do something that is valid for practice, even if it's not what you would choose. So you might have 5 cards, and they might say play a twinkle variation. It may say can you walk and play, or it might say go and get a biscuit, and they're all the same colour and they don't mind. The child is more likely to want to take one in case they get the biscuit one, aren't they? And that is kind of like random. And I remember this is why I can do speeches like this and I can't read from words. It's because I remember Helen Brunner saying when she used to take lessons for Kate or a specific bit, she said, I always make a point of doing something silly about 15 minutes into the tape, because that's what the child wants to wait for. To hear me going, woo, or you know, something like that. That's what they want, you know. So I think random will work with what will make a happier practice. We haven't got an H either.
Also, I think recording, it's got 2 meanings, hasn't it? One, you need to listen to your recording, but also if you use your phone and record bits of the practice, you will have so much more success at doing it at home, because you can literally remind yourself and see, you know,
absolutely.
Here is a picture of the perfect bow hold. We don't have to try and remember by writing curly little finger, middle fingers round the bow, blah blah blah. You can just do a video of it from every angle and then recreate it at home.
I mean that's what's transforming teaching. Absolutely. So if you're not doing, please get your phone out and just take a photo of me playing this little tune or whatever. That sort of recording is, in a way, they're more likely to watch it because they like seeing the teacher. So it might be better if you all recorded yourselves playing the twinkle variations, you know, if you had a little one doing it. And interestingly, I inherited a pupil from another teacher who was playing grade 6 music that actually has no sense of inner pulse at all. So I went, So this was a slow piece. One of the grade 6 ones is the melody by Gluck from Morpheus, and I thought, what can I do about this? So I thought, right, take a video of yourself playing it, ask her to play with it without any sound from me. So at least she's doing the bows the same time as me. and that can transform it. And she came for a lesson yesterday, and it's so interesting because her exam is next week. She's played this piece a lot of times as a solo really well. But if you take away the piano accompaniment, she'll just make up a whole load of stuff. Quite happily put the accompaniment in, perfect. Just really interesting. I think we got an I. Yes, this was mine. I think you need to be interested in why anything happens with the parent. What is it? You know, because people parent in different ways. So we're still on the good parenting bit. This is quite fun. So what about in the A line? What have we got that you think if parents do this or they understand this, we'll have a good
Adjust and adapt.
adjust and adapt could be, yes, it could be, oh we haven't got, where is it? Adjust and adapt is, it's very interesting because it's, that's what we're often asking, aren't we, as teachers? We're asking people to change things. And one of the suggestions, you've probably been there and done this already, is it is really good teaching to never say, oh, that's so much better. Because although you might think this is awful and this is so much better, if the child has done this more times with a straight little finger, then this is going to feel weird.
Yeah, but shouldn't you be telling them what's better? I mean, if
Well, you
they do
can tell them this is the one you want for the violin, or you could say, you could say it's better, but it's nice to say, wow, it's so hard to change something, or it feels weird. We were talking about this morning, isn't it? If you change something, it doesn't feel comfortable because it's different, and your body is used to whatever it's doing. So if it's used to bowing around the corner, and they bow in front of themselves, you can say, wow, the sound is really different, isn't it? You can talk about something that is...
I think the situation I've seen people use that kind of thing in is saying it's so much easier. It's so much easier if you hold it like this. And it's like, no, it's really not if you're used to doing it the other way. But I think particularly kids who go to school are hardwired to want to make something better. And so if you say that's so much better, well done, it's really tricky, isn't it? Then they're going to be like, great.
But you've also put into that sentence what good teachers do. That's so much better, well done, it's quite tricky. Rather than saying, or the other thing I suppose teachers say, isn't that easier when it doesn't feel easier?
Yeah. I guess
You
I'm
know
sorry
those sort of things.
to
It's
interrupt
okay.
you. I
No,
just
I
don't want
want
you
you
to
to
go away
interrupt.
thinking you should never say that was much better, because I think that is a core.
I'm talking about
Useful thing
specifically when you're changing
Yeah.
postures and things,
Yeah,
you know.
I think it's the changing things.
Yes,
Yeah.
the adjusting.
Yeah. I'm wondering if action would cover quite a lot of those things in A. It's
Well,
like
they would,
if you
don't they? What are
if you
the
act,
actions?
then you can adjust, you can adapt, you can allow.
Did you say actions or?
Well, action or actions, yeah.
Yes. I mean, it does all, it all ties in all the time, doesn't it? But I think we've had somewhere comprehension, you know, this is the one I think we need to spend more time seeing if we can actually get the parent on side. And if we can't, then you have to just keep teaching what you think is important. Even if they sort of try to get you to do something else. You can go sideways. So if you're teaching everybody down up, you know, you can do alligator snap snap, and they'll think, oh, it's a different tune, you know, but actually it's not, because they haven't totally understood about syllables and things. And that one makes sense. Yeah, it's really interesting and different, because this same family, the mum is called Miriam. So I said Miriam, and then it was a while before I realised that actually she doesn't say it like that. That's how we say it in England. She's Italian. She says Miriam, Miriam. You know. So it's all lots of lovely, interesting things.
Nice diphthong.
Diphthong, is it a diphthong?
Yeah, if you have like yam, that it's two sounds that are put together as a diphthong.
Right. Okay. All right.
English
Okay.
to degrees.
So And timings. The interesting thing I think is that parents, they often don't, they really don't know what you think is the most important thing as a teacher. And that in itself will create problems if they think that what's going to please you is a child coming in and saying, I've learnt some of the notes of the next song. You can say, great, let's hear it. And then you say, how are you getting on with doing your Casals bowing? And I say, oh, we didn't do this week. That comes down to you, not to them. So if you spend the entire lesson giving them all the things that we were doing in our lesson this morning, where am I looking? YouTube. Then they might go away and do a bit of it, or they might not understand it, but I don't think we've got anything on here is what I think we need to do a lot of empowering, and this is where the charts and things like this come in, empowering the parents to know how to get out of a tricky situation with the child. Does anybody have any solutions for what to do when the practice session goes wrong?
Someone's given us one, was just like the kid can do whatever they want and the parent just has to say nice things. Which I think is really great.
Yeah, that's a really nice one, isn't it? Okay, you choose, because I think this is where the whole idea of choice or fishing, if you're fishing with the fishing set with a child, these, I mean, Kate's got a very sophisticated set now, which you can probably buy from her, but these are colour-coded because they're all different things. So one colour is all to do with rhythm, one colour is all to do with something with the bow. So it's very specific. So if you let them take whatever they like and then they take the fish and then you take all that colour off. So they've done a blue and then they do a red and a yellow and then they've done a balanced sort of practice as a little one. And it is attractive. They do like doing it. If you're not sure how to do it, then ask somebody who's done it a lot, because there are some pitfalls. And again, of course, it's not really about going fishing and having this lovely game. It's about, can you keep your bent thumb while you go fishing and while you bring it up?
Maybe
So,
we need resources under
resources, I think. Yes, we do. Resources is a great one. So the other thing that I think is, I really encourage parents to do, I know we talk such a lot about little ones, but I think it is about how you set it up. At the beginning, you've got the parent there because you've decided that the 3-year-old's not going to do it if the parent's not there. Or what they do is not what you would hope they would do. So I do sort of work with things and encourage them a lot to sort of, I'll tell you a story. I'm very good at telling stories. This was about a time at Temple Dinsdale when some old lady suddenly found out she was going to have twins. Very kind of like a very difficult journey, because she was on her own, she'd got these twins, and then she decided to do Suzuki. Well, then she came on this course, and we'd see this 4 or 5-year-old, they might have been 4, one of them, just wandering around, and you say, where's mummy? And this 4-year-old would often say things like, oh, she's having a sleep. Actually, nobody looking after this 4-year-old. And then, you'd also get this other thing from the mum, she'd say, oh, my son is so sort of, he's so focused, and my daughter, she's just a nightmare, she doesn't, and I was wandering around as director once, and I met her going to a class that her daughter was in, and I said to her, are you up for doing a little experiment? And she said, yeah. I said, it's very simple, we'll sit together, all you have to do is watch your child, and every time she does what the teacher asks, right, put a tick. So if the teacher says stand up, she stands up, put a tick. Right? There was about 10 minutes of the lesson left. She did these. She did 107 ticks in 10 minutes. And this is a child who doesn't focus, doesn't do what the teacher says. And she wrote to me afterwards and she said, thank you so much. I see my daughter quite differently 107 ticks later. So that's a really nice one to do in a lesson. If you've got a parent and child where you feel the parent is getting at the child all the time, that's a nice exercise to do, just to ask them to do that. Or I've had people have a pile of matchsticks. I said, your child is going to play this piece, and every time you look at them or you hear something you like and you just drop one, you don't have to say what they all are for, but they just can sort of, she knows that what you're doing is thinking something nice, or he, every time you drop one of those matchsticks. As another powerful one, and so is noting when they've done something good. So if they're working with a child, so with Lego blocks or something, every time they do something, you put this Lego blocks in this particular place, and at the end they can build it into whatever they like. If the practice then goes wrong, you as a parent have that visual reminder right there that it wasn't all bad. And one of the things I say, we may as well have it on record, I'm sure she knows about it, is the thing I regret the most when I was working with Kate was Song of the Wind, tricky bit. May I borrow this violin?
Working with, as in being like practicing parents.
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
working with.
So
like
we
now.
were doing this bit.
I can play Song of the Wind now.
Oh, sorry, it's not my violin. One I would go. And I said before we started to her, I'll just count. Is that all I did? No. We got to 35, and I said, took the violin and bow off her. I said, that's marvellous, darling. So I have no idea how many she would have done.
107.
Well, you might, but it really struck me that I had actually interfered with something which was going brilliantly. Why? Just because I couldn't be bothered to just sit there and go 36? I mean, it's not very good, is it?
It's all right, Mum.
No, I know. I've done my 10 years of therapy on it. It's fine. But you know, that is one of the things that parents also don't understand. If your child says, you put the violin up on there, and you say, how long can you hold it there for? Do you think that looks great? We'll put a frog on it. How long can you hold it? And they often say 100. Now, they don't really know what 100 means, just like they don't know what just once more means. That's something they really don't understand. Just one more goes on forever. But if they say that, and you just count, and you go to 20, do you want to go on? Yes, and then you go to 30. They will probably quite often just stay there till 100. So what have you taught? You've taught a really good amount of time with a perfect posture. So that counts as a gold star practice. Yeah? If you use stars and credits, which I do, because I think we all, I mean, if you think about things in life that, I mean, that's not down there. Treats, ticks and treats.
Just what you were saying before, with the baby class, there are 2 weeks of repertoire, the Suzuki baby class, and the kids can love it for way longer than the parents who, well, this is what we were taught. I have witnessed it a little bit as well. But the kids really like the repetition, whereas the parents have to pretend they like the repetition. So what I was saying, I was thinking of a new word for the P, which is patience.
Yes, that's a very good one.
Yeah.
Have we got anything about a belief system?
Philosophy?
Yes. So I am still to try to find the reason why in my lessons, if I ask a child to do something, they quite often go, wait, as though I often don't wait. When I never say hurry up. I don't say that, no. I say I'm waiting, it's all right. But I don't know whether it's school or what it is, but they're not used to being able to be given the time to think. If you ask them something. Not often. Okay, we're going off course. No. Treats. Just think about yourself. If you want to change a behaviour, do you not set up a treat for yourself? I know this is hard. I think loads of us do. And if you don't, maybe that's why you're not succeeding in doing what it is that's hard. Because if we decide we're going to do something and change something, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, is it? So,
more carrot-listic.
yes, go for gain, prevent pain. Heather Classy did a talk on that. So, solutions. Why do you think, so if we think in a different way, oh, I do need to know about soup. I do need to know about soup.
Soup or salad?
Well, I was just thinking that we have a huge amount of information around how to teach the violin, and in our heads it feels clear, well, it should feel quite clear what we're trying to give the child at any point, but they're receiving so much information and the parents aren't trained violinists, and I think it can easily just like accumulate into a big soup.
Yes, I think that's true. I think this is something that I read in a magazine once, which was targeting all teachers, not Suzuki teachers. Do you leave enough time at the end of the lesson for a recap of exactly how you see the priority list? And often we don't. We teach up to the end. We don't. So there are various ways you can not do that. You can sort of get a pinger on, so you leave 5 minutes at the end. You can get better at it, or you can carry on failing. I think I belong to the group that carries on failing, even though I know it's quite a good idea. But I do really now try to do a PP, which I've changed from a practice point to a posture point, because so much of it is, because I took students on from another teacher who's a very good teacher, and they 3 children, and I said, I'd like to come and see, is it alright if I just come and see you and spend a couple of hours just talking about things with all of you and get to know you a bit? And they said yes, and I didn't charge for that at all, I just went. And I said, so what's a practice point? Nobody, even after all these years of teaching, said it's about something that makes my violin playing better. They were quite sure it was about a box in the music that you practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, maybe I should change the word then. Helen Brunner's all for changing words. Any problem, change the word, change the label, create a new thing. So I thought, I'm going to try calling it a posture point, because so often what we're talking about is a posture point. So it's just food for thought. And I also give a technical point. So in my notes I have, for each child at the top, I have targets for myself to remind myself what is it that I've got to remind myself I want this child to be able to do. These might be things like vibrato. You get some kids, they're so happy to learn pieces that you don't never stop enough to do the vibrato sort of in a really solid way. Or it might be reading music. So everybody has strategies for not doing what they don't like doing. So everybody, that's a really intelligent way to get out of being put on a spot that you don't want to be on. If you know music reading is not very good, then maybe you try and get out of it. But if it's there, if you see it before, when the child comes in, I've normally only got about 3 or 4. And I'm not trying to do them all at once, I'm just trying to keep them going along. It's helpful, I think. So I have a tech, and I think that helps the parents if they know. And this was because, going right back to what we said at the beginning, you need to try and have a relationship with the parent where they will talk to you and tell you how it really is. So that then you can actually, rather than the ones that pretend and you keep... Oh, there's this wonderful story about Sharon who, she said she couldn't understand why this child wasn't progressing, because the parent took great notes, they told her she practiced all the time. So she said, could you record practice for me? And she said, now bear in mind that this recording, she knew I was going to hear it. And the sort of thing that happened in this recording was the child would play allegro, all in tune, and then she said something nice to the child, and then she said, now remember next time, long bows, let's hear Song for Wind. In other words, didn't spend any of the practice time training what wasn't coming out. And I think for her that would have been a kind of, wow, I thought I was so clear. We think we're so clear. So
we had a teacher here who realised that because she was teaching cello, she was teaching a very small child, and so she had her cello down, and rather than like always pick it up, she would say, you know, when you're practicing, exactly like you just did, make sure you use long bows. And this child made very, very, very little progress, and after a while she said, can you tell me exactly what's happening in your practice? Can you show me a bit of practice? And this child was miming the cello wasn't coming out. I mean, isn't that like such an eye-opener? Because we think, how on earth can you think that is what we mean you should be doing? But you know, that's a parent who's paying hundreds of pounds a year to come and do it. They're in the lesson taking notes, they're doing their practice every day, or you know, regularly. They're just a really fundamental misunderstanding. And wow, we have to be really clear.
It is.
And she's not a stupid woman. She's not one of those women where you
No.
think, oh yeah, I've met you before. Yeah, you need everything spelling out. You know, she's highly successful, very intelligent. Like, just something didn't click.
And of course we've got loads of things we can draw on to actually show them that you need to give the child the tools with which to make the music.
Tools.
Another example of like a lost interest with a professional violinist parent. I've been demonstrating how the starting kids could do just the bows, and they could do the fingers, and it was part of their practice to do one hand each. And he'd done it with the violin on his shoulder and the kid bowing
With his bow?
With his bow, and not, you know, as if they were the parent, and for ages. And I was like, why is the bowing just feeling so wrong? Yeah.
You know, let's experience all these things. They all just. I did this big black one because this is another one from Helen Brunner, and it's the kind of teaching we do. And if you haven't seen this, it's worth having it in here. We do royal teaching. What does royal stand for? For the rest of your adult life. It's fantastic. That as something that you might remember when you're teaching, that you're communicating to a parent, whatever you're doing, is interesting, and it kind of sticks a bit. Yeah, so I was saying to my granddaughter at the weekend, I said, I just want to show you something, Anushka. Do you know that the bow hold you do is exactly the same as my bow hold, except my thumb goes just through the door to there. That's the only thing that's different. No, just so they know, because if you, it's so unusual that a child. What we do with our students is we are expecting a high level from the beginning. Not this is really good for a 4-year-old. Can you make it more ringing? Can you get your fingers more into a tabletop shape? And I'm sure half the parents think, she's only 4 or only 5. And I had a wake-up call. I decided to watch one of the Lauderdale lockdown videos that Charlotte Clemson did with the beginner group. And I was just astounded by how she developed her theme. So I picked up from hanging around the Midlands lot. Have you all seen this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and all this, right? So she started, so half the class had come in, she was just doing this. And they're all about 3 to 4, and a lot of them. And then she started saying, oh, I can see some people are doing what I'm doing. Good. And then she went into this quite slow. And then even with these little ones, it was, let's see if we can do it faster. Can you do it without me? Can the parents do it? Parents ought to get up. So the development of an idea into something which is that bit harder is the mark of somebody who's really got it planned out what they're doing. So whatever we're doing, it needs to grow a little bit. So I was saying in your lesson this morning, when you do a warm-up with a child, whatever the warm-up is, it's good teaching to then ask them to do something with that warm-up, to say what's really nice, but say, do you think you could? So you don't just hear it once and then get on to what you're demonstrating as being the real bit of the lesson. Use the warm-up to actually take them a step nearer to where you want them to be. So while we're talking about things like this, the other one I use a lot, which I just think is another star one, which also came from Helen Brunner, is gift. Because you find at some point in their teaching lessons, almost every child, you can stop the lesson saying, Johanna, right now you are a gift student, do you know what that means? And they go, no, I don't know what it means, you know. And you say, you got it first time, well done. Yeah? So, and it really just bums in that marvellous feeling to whoever is told that they are a gift student at that moment. They just love it. So that's going to make things easier. I mean, parents could go away and take that idea, if they were going to, and put it in all sorts of situations which would help. So, is that anything like what you thought I might talk about?
Absolutely, exactly what I was hoping you would do. Thank you, perfect.
Well, that's lovely. So
Gift.
I am now leaving.
You are a gift trainer
at this point. So I'm just going to use the last bit of the lesson. I just thought I'd bring some of the tricks of the trade if you haven't seen them, you wanted to take pictures. So, you know, all these things, they're endlessly all over. I haven't brought loads. But, and if you don't know about fish, this is another one, just this picture here. I'll just take it to the board. Is it still on?
Yeah.
Hello, black one. Yes. Is that if the practice goes wrong, it's a good idea to do something without the violin and bow. And having something like this, and some of those lovely counters that with a magnet wand, or playing I Spy with the book to find something different, just calms it all down in the same way that there's no reason why a parent can't say, oh, why don't you come and have a hug? Let's look at a Suzuki video. Let's look at this, you know. And I think they think most of the time we want something different. All I really want is the money and the child and parent to leave every time feeling pleased they've come.
What, the money? What?
Money. It's my profession.
Yeah,
I just want the money.
Mm-hmm.
You need the money.
Got bills to pay.
Yeah, bills to pay. So, but it is really important, I think, that they go away and you see them coming towards where they're going to have the lesson, and they look as though they want to get inside the door. Yeah. Any questions?
No, that was brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
There is also, for anyone in the room who hasn't looked at them or online, lots of articles on the Hub website about help with practice under Parent Hub. So maybe we'll put this up there as well, if you don't mind, Dawn.
No, I don't mind. I don't really mind. You know me well enough. I'm not someone who says I'm fine when I'm not really.
Yeah.
Unless I haven't got time to tell them why I'm not fine. I do say I'm fine. Yeah. It's a bit. I've only had one parent who's ever done this right, and that means it's a really poor example of what I'm hoping they're going to do. This is a 3-week practice sheet for a beginner. So I'm hoping that these stars don't represent how many they've done, but which day they've done. So what I asked them to do, which I've only had one parent do, is these are your check things. It's the same as the stars, really. Something, can you do rest, position and bow to actually frame the practice? Can you do something with playing feet, rest, position, feet? Can you do something which leads to a good bow hold, or, you know, bow game? Can you do something with the violin? Can you do something with the fingers, rhythms, and then another rest, position, bow? And can you make sure you listen to the Suzuki? So the parent who's got organised life might go red star, red star, red star, red star, red star, miss one or two, you know, red star, and then blue the next day or purple. But it doesn't really work very well. But I thought I'd bring it anyway because you could just invent one.
It's a good idea to have.
It's
a
like somebody said
menu.
it a bit earlier, didn't they? They said, I thought this was clear, but they don't do it. I don't know, somebody said something. And so if they don't do it, you have to go with what they do.
Or you have to be clearer.
Or you have to be clearer, or never show these to anyone in case they think it's a good idea. But it helps them to if they look at it. I mean, this whole bit about looking at what you want them to do is very interesting because I don't think there are many that open the notebook. And I was approached by someone who said, my son, I want him to go to Eton. He needs a music scholarship. I said, oh, no pressure then. I mean, he'd come from somewhere else and I was charming, absolutely charming child, charming. I've got a notebook here. So he came along for one lesson, I'll never forget this. And here was the notebook, and I'd written some more over here, and I'd asked for a study or something. So I said, oh, can I hear the study? And he said to me, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do that. I said, oh, I'm very kind, you see. I said, maybe you forgot to turn the page over. So then I asked for something on this page, and he said, I'm so sorry, I didn't do that either. I said, oh, did you open this book at all? No, sorry, I didn't. No.
How old was he?
Oh, 11, 12.
Right.
Got it.
What to
Eton on a musical
on a
scholarship.
music scholarship?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he took the.
He didn't do that every week. It's just one that I remember.
Yeah.
It's like the joke about the teacher saying to the child, "Did you look at the next piece as I asked you to?" "Yes, I did. Can I hear some?" "Oh, I didn't play it. You only asked me to look at it."
Just looked at it.
I looked at it. I think we should have some lunch.
Yes, thank you very much, Mum. Yes.